Hi, I'm Sperry Hutchinson from U-Haul. Today I'm going to show you how to install a trailer hitch onto this Kia Optima that's going to allow you to tow up to 2,000 pounds of gross trailer weight, that's the trailer and everything in it, or up to 200 pounds of tongue weight. And the tongue weight is helpful to know for safe trailering as well as supporting hitch accessories such as cargo racks and bike carriers. Let's get started.
You will need the tools seen here to complete this installation.
Now, to gain access to our mounting points for our hitch, we first need to lower our exhaust, at least the rear part of the system here, and we're going to remove the heat shields, but our exhaust is fairly heavy on this vehicle, so we're going to use a support strap before removing any of these hangers. With our strap in place, our exhaust is ready to come down, and we've got a combination of hardware here on our exhaust hanger. I'm going to use a 12mm socket to remove the bolt from the top of our isolator. We're going to repeat this step on the driver's side as well as one more hanger just forward of the fuel tank. And if there's any corrosion on your bolts here, just go ahead and spray a little lubricant on there. Luckily, ours are coming out really easily. With our bolts removed, we can swing the rubber isolator out of the way, and we're going to remove and discard the original OEM exhaust brackets here. I'm removing these with a 12mm socket. With our heat shields now removed, we've got access to the vehicle subframe, and we're going to remove these adhesive foam covers from the subframe, and we'll use a utility knife or a scraper to remove as much of this adhesive material as we can. Now, on our Kia Optima, we actually need to remove some material from our driver and passenger heat shields from this inside corner. We're going to measure and mark those according to the installation instructions, and we'll get those trimmed out over at the workbench. With our layout marked, we can now remove the material, cutting with either an air saw, as I have here, or a set of snips, which is probably more likely to be in your toolbox at home. Back underneath our Kia, we're ready to install our carriage bolts and retainer blocks. Note that the 1.5 long carriage bolt is going to be installed in the rear of our 2 passenger and driver side holes. I'm going to use a fish wire routed from the front hole and coming out the back to pull that hardware in place. Always we slip our block on the fish wire first, thread our carriage bolt onto the wound portion of the fish wire, slip them both back up into the frame. Again, on the driver's side, we'll take our fish wire, routing it through up, into our rear access hole and pulling it out the front. Again, install our rectangular spacer block onto our wire, threading our longer 7/16 by 1.5" carriage bolt onto the wire, and we'll pull it to the rear of the vehicle. For our forward hardware installation, we're going to use this special notch spacer block that's included in the kit. I'm going to route the fish wire through it first. I've already got my shorter now 1.25" carriage bolts. I'm simply going to insert those up into the frame. And pull them back down through the hole where we want them. With our hardware in place, we're ready to bring the hitch over to the Kia, and if you're at home, now's a good time to get some help, a second pair of hands to lift and guide this into place. I, of course, have the advantage of having this specialized jack that's going to help me get the hitch right where I want it. Of course, as we lift and hold this hitch in place, I want to be sure that we don't push our hardware out of where we just installed it. Now, a handy tip when installing this hitch is to take your washer and nut combination, and of course the tooth side always goes up against the hitch, and begin by installing those on the front set of bolts. That's going to help hold the hitch in place while we perform our next step, which is to install some spacers on the rear set of bolts. With our hitch temporarily held in place by our front pair of hardware, we're going to install these 2 7/16 washers as spacers above the hitch. So between the frame and the hitch go these 2 washers. Then we'll install this square block with a round hole, the toothed washer, and the 7/16 nut. So we'll see how this stacks up. So I've got our hitch down a little ways. I'm going to simply put these 2 washers on top of the hitch and position the bolt just loosely through them for now. Install the 2 flat washers in the same manner on both sides. With our washers in place and the hitch held up, we can install our spacer, our toothed washer, again tooth side up, and our 7/16 nut. All right, same hardware on the driver's side, spacer block, tooth washer and our nut. All right, with our nuts in place and hand tight, we can snug them up using an 11/16 socket. Okay, same goes on the driver's side. Okay, now we are prepared to do a final torque on our hardware. So look for that in your instructions, and I'll use, again, an 11/16 socket, and I'm going to listen for this particular torque wrench to click once that value is reached. All right, next we install our heat shields. Now we've lost, because we trimmed one of our mounting points off of the shield, but we're gonna reutilize 3 of those hard points. And we'll reuse our nuts and washers from when we removed them. Just like on the driver's side, we're going to fit the passenger side heat shield in the same way, using our 3 existing remaining mounting points. Now we're ready to reinstall our exhaust hangers with our new hardware included in the kit. We're going to install our bolt first from the outside through the hanger, bring it up to the welded tab on the hitch, where we can then install our washer, lock washer, and hex nut. And we'll tighten this all up with a 13mm socket and a wrench. Same goes on the driver's side. With our 2 rear exhaust hangers in place, all that remains is to get this 3rd central exhaust hanger reinstalled. Of course, once you got this started by hand, you can remove the support strap. And we'll just tighten up our final bolt here. With our hitch in place, we can now look at some of the features, such as our welded square cross tube here, our 1¼ inch receiver tube, our hitch pin hole. Of course, got a welded loop chainstay for mounting our safety chains or hooks if we're towing a trailer. And that is it for the installation of our hitch on a Kia Optima. Some key measurements to know with your new hitch installed are from the ground to the inside top of the receiver tube is 11 inches. That's going to help in selecting either a rise or drop ball mount to get your coupler on your trailer at the proper height. Another dimension you need to know is from the center of the hitch pin to the rear edge of the vehicle on this Kia is 3.5 inches. That's going to help when you're choosing a cargo carrier, a bike rack, or any sort of a hitch accessory with a vertical component.
To learn more about the products seen in this video, or to schedule an installation by a U-Haul Hitch professional, visit us online today at uhaulhitches.com.